I'm sure it's the girl next door. She's very odd.
Your hand?
This week on Talking About the movies, Diablo, Cody, and Robin Williams' daughter Zelda bring you a story that is very much a satirical homage to the classic horror comedies of the 1980s. And you probably have never even heard about it. Let's talk about Lisa Frankenstein. And welcome to Talking About the Movies, where, of course, on this show we talk about the biggest new releases of the weekend. And let's just say that this is not a big weekend for new releases, mostly because today, in particular, we're dominated by one particular event going on here. Well, maybe not that in particular, but the Super Bowl is today. And, of course, that means that the studios are not going to push out one of their big new releases this weekend, except for one studio. And the film that they put out was an interesting concept to me, at least from the trailers that I saw from it. Let's go ahead and talk about the big new release of this weekend, and that is, of course, Lisa Frankenstein. So in Lisa Frankenstein, you have this the title character played by Katherine Newton, who suffers an unspeakable tragedy and finds herself in a new school her senior year in 1989, struggling to fit in despite her sister Taffy trying to get her to conform to her more typical cheerleader vibe. And when a freak accident reanimates a corpse from the abandoned cemetery where she was spending time, she must keep his arrival a secret from his family and classmates, all while deciding how much she wants to help him and at what cost. The corpse played by Cole Sprouse, of course, of the Sprouse brothers, who you may remember from Big Daddy and more notably The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. And so this movie is very, very interesting for a number of different reasons. One, I mean, just from the trailer and the poster alone, you could tell where they're going into this concept here. It's basically an idea that, you know, the whole movie is that it's a satirical homage to the horror comedies of the 80s. In fact, the poster for this is very similar to the poster for another 1980s comedy that was not successful at all, but you could definitely tell they took a lot of inspiration for this particular poster here, and that is for Wicked Stepmother, which is a terrible comedy which starred Bette Davis in one of her final roles, and it was a very interesting concept, just bad execution in general. But you can definitely tell that this film took a lot of inspiration from those type of comedies. You see a little bit of Weird Science in there. You see a little bit of Heathers. You see a little bit of just various horror comedies that came out around that time period. But what's mostly notable about this movie is the people behind the scenes. You have Diablo Cody, who of course won an Oscar for writing Juno, wrote the criminally underrated Jennifer's Body as the writer of this, which coincidentally, this movie actually does take place in the same fictional universe as Jennifer's Body, so maybe one day we'll get the Jennifer's Body Lisa Frankenstein crossover we've all been blabbering on about, which I don't know, I'd be kind of interested in checking that out if they actually did that. But also, most notably, this is directed by Zelda Williams. Now, that's a name that you may not be familiar with unless you know Robin Williams, because that's Robin Williams' daughter. And this is actually the first movie she's ever directed. I think it's the first thing she's ever directed, period, if I'm not mistaken. She's been mostly known for doing, you know, voice work. She was most notably on The Legend of Korra, playing Kavira. Got that name all mixed up there. But let me see here, just to see if... I think this was the only... No, she did direct another movie, Shrimp. She also did, which I've never seen before. She also did Kappa Kappa Die. So maybe this is the first feature... But then again, I think that's a short film, the Shrimp is. But this is the first full-length feature film she's ever directed. And she's actually directed some music videos for JoJo and also Anna Clending as well as many other things too. But that was something that really piqued my interest, seeing that she was going to direct a feature film like this, and I am happy to say that the movie is actually really, really good. It's a movie that I was really looking forward to just from the trailer alone. I like the concept, I like the idea. It also reminded me of a movie that's not technically from the 80s, but it also kind of reminded me of that 93 movie, My Boyfriend's Back, where you have, you know, this kid who dies and comes back to take his day to the prom. It's a zombie, and like, it's a very funny concept in general. The movie itself not that great overall, but it does still have those memorable moments to it that, you know, definitely are very reminiscent in this particular movie. You could tell that these two, Cody and Williams, really loved those movies of the day and really wanted to do something in a modernized setting. And even though it takes place in 1989, but this is definitely a film that is very much a nice homage to those movies that is those horror comedies of the day, and it has even a little bit of Edward Scissorhands thrown in there too. And it's a very entertaining movie. It's a really fun film overall. You do like the chemistry between Newton and Sprouse. I do like that they don't really they want you to see that they're eventually gonna end up being a couple in the long run. But of course, like with Edward Scissorhands, it's just not meant to be. And it's one of those things where it's just like, it's really well done, and I think it's really a well-made movie. I like the cast overall here. I like Catherine Newton. I like Cole Sprouse. Liza Sobrano, who I'm not too familiar with. She's been in some other movies too, but this is the first real movie where she really gets a chance to break out and actually show what she can do. It's her first movie in Hollywood, and she's really good in the film. Carla Gugino has a nice role playing her stepmother too. She's very fun in this as well. The style of the film is very exciting to look at. It's very well done, and you can just tell that this movie knew exactly what it wanted to accomplish. And it's interesting that they were able to get away with as much as they could, despite the PG-13 rating, which this probably works best for a PG-13 rating. I think if they went R, I think it might have been a little too much. And this is me saying that there's a problem with the rating system in particular. Maybe in a couple weeks I'll actually do another video talking about that, but mostly brought up by the fact that the upcoming Bob Marley biopic got a PG-13 rating, which probably means DOA because of the fact that most musical biopics that get a PG-13 rating only have one thing in mind, and that's to be safe and marketable. But this movie, I think, does its job well enough to have the PG-13 rating and get away with what they could do. I think it's great that they stayed in that area here. They didn't go too much with the R rating in general, but I thought it was a really good film. It's a nice comfort movie. It's a film that's not very long at all, just a little bit over an hour and a half, about an hour 41 minutes, but it does deliver everything it promises. It has a nice chemistry between the two leads. It's a very good film overall. And it's just a really fun movie. There's a lot of fun ideas. There's a lot of good laughs. There's a lot of good storylines in there that you get behind. I think it's a wonderful film. Probably going to have a massive cult following because this movie is unfortunately not doing well at the box office as of the time of recording this. But this is just one of those movies, just like Jennifer's Body, that I think will have a loyal audience to it as the years go on. I think people will start to come around to it and realize that, hey, this is something that actually maybe we should have went to see the first time around. And I'm glad I got to see it on the big screen when I did, because it's definitely worth it. I highly recommend it, and probably right up there with Orion in the Dark is one of my favorite movies of the year so far, this young year that we're in. But I really enjoy it. I give it a big thumbs up. I think if you go into it knowing what you're going in for, I think you can have a really good time with it. I think it's a very solid film. I think it's a very entertaining film. I highly recommend it. Like I said, big thumbs up for this one. Lisa Frankenstein, definitely seek this one out. If you don't get to see it in theaters, definitely check it out when it comes home on home media. It's more than worth the watch. So yeah, we have not. So of course we're kind of towards the end of the doldrums of the early part of the year when it comes to movies. And, January's January, and the first couple weeks of February aren't always that great. But next week, we finally get to the movies that the studios are proud of, or at least they want us to think that they're proud of, because next week we have Madam Web, which is, of course, the latest attempt by Sony to create a Spider-Man cinematic universe without using Spider-Man whatsoever. And if any indication from what I've heard about this particular movie is from the early reactions I got, it's bound to be another one of those movies with Venom and Morbius where they just have no idea what they want to do with this and just said, screw it, we're just going to create our own universe and we don't care what anybody says. But on top of that, we also have the aforementioned Bob Marley One Love, which I was looking forward to it until I saw that I got the PG-13 rating. I don't know, man. Like, I just feel like if you want to tell a good biopic, you got to make it R. You got to be able to go all out on it. You can't just do something safe and marketable, because you get another case of what happened with the Whitney Houston movie or Bohemian Rhapsody. It's just like, I don't know. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe this movie will actually turn out to be good, but judging from the early reactions that I've heard about this movie, it's not looking too good. So we will find out next week when I take a look at both of those movies. And if you saw Lisa Frankenstein, let me know your thoughts down below. Tell me what you thought of the movie. Do you think it might? Do you think it'll have a chance to be a cult following over the years? And with that said, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, if you want to see more videos like this, check out some of the other videos I've done. Hit the like and subscribe button, and I'll see you guys next time. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. And until then, as always, take care.